Week 3 of college football, my friends, might have been the best one yet. Alabama rolled against Wisconsin. Dabo and Clemson are in big trouble after losing to Georgia Tech on a walk-off field goal. We've got turmoil in Gainesville. We have jubilation in College Station. Let's get into it all on this edition of the Pigskin Cafe.
Welcome to the Pigskin Cafe. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
They had to win this game.
There's a problem. This one's tough.
We are back.
That's what my gut's telling me.
I genuinely could not believe it.
You don't live in the great state of Texas.
All right, big boy. Hold my sweet tea.
What are we doing?
Welcome back into the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper. I've got Graham Haney here with me today to break down all things Week 3 college football. Alabama had a huge win. We're going to get into that, and we're going to get into some other major storylines from all over the country. We're thanking the Lord for another day, thanking the Lord for my good buddy Graham, and that we're able to talk about what we love, a little college football. But before we get into it, a few program reminders. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, leave us a comment, hit that notification bell. We're so close to 300, guys. We're so close. Help us get over the hump. And be sure to follow us on social media if you haven't already. Graham, let's hop in to Week 3 of college football. So we're going to start with Alabama playing Wisconsin and winning 38-14 and looking very dominant while doing so. I'm going to give a brief impression of what I thought of the game, then kind of kick it to you, even though I know you really didn't get to watch hardly any of it because you were too busy watching our dear Trojans getting their eyes clawed out by the Memphis Tigers. But I was really impressed again with Alabama. I think after the loss to FSU, which again is looking better and better by the week, not saying how they played looks better, but the loss itself, because of the quality of team that Florida State is looking like they are, is looking better. And I know ULM and I know Wisconsin are not juggernauts by any stretch of the imagination. But Alabama has ramped up the intensity, the intentionality, the focus on the little things, on the details has been evident. And I think you've seen really kind of a different Kalen DeBoer that I absolutely love. He's getting on guys. He's wearing that black hoodie and he's feeling himself. I am really, really encouraged, if I'm an Alabama fan, about this team's response. It was a very business-like performance. Your defense played really well. Offensively, which is what we're going to get into first, was absolutely outstanding and had another phenomenal day by Ty Simpson at the helm. So, Graham, I'm going to kick it to you real quick, man. Do you have any overall general thoughts about the game? I know you didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, but just kind of from what you heard or looking at the box score that really stood out to you before we kind of really dive deep into what the offense looked like on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back on with you. Just want to let the fans know that you said it. I did go watch Troy play our alma mater, and I'm a proud Trojan fan. But it was a difficult day. It truly was. I got sunburned fairly bad, and you might not be able to tell on camera, but I got told Hampton off camera, my knees would glow in the dark. They're so hot. Man, it was a rough outing, no doubt. So the good thing is we get to talk about good football and at least a team that we like actually winning. Man, Hampton, I'm going to pose this question to you first, just from my standpoint. Not able to watch the game, but just seeing some clips online. Has this Alabama team under Kalen DeBoer transformed into a pass-first offense with Ty Simpson at quarterback?
It's a really good question, Graham, and I'm glad you brought it up because I did want to speak to that criticism that I've seen from a lot of fans after this game saying Alabama needs to run the ball better. They got to run the ball better. I don't disagree with that premise. They need to run the ball better. They need to be more consistent with it. The running backs need to be better when they're given an opportunity. Because to me, other than Kevin Riley, I hadn't seen a whole lot from Daniel Hill at all. Richard Young is kind of inconsistent. I think the addition of Jam Miller is going to be very, very beneficial for this team. But I think on Saturday, Alabama didn't run the ball because, I mean, it's just simply enough. Wisconsin did everything in their power to stop the run and commit guys in the box to stop it. So I went back and rewatched the game last night, and I mean, majority of the game, they had 7 or 8 guys in the box. They were constantly blitzing, sending pressure to try to disrupt the running game. And prior to this game, I believe they had given up 62 yards rushing on the ground. They'd only given up one rush over 10 yards coming into the game. So this is a really elite run defense that Alabama had to face on Saturday. Now, again, going forward, I think Alabama does have to be better, and I think ultimately it starts with, I honestly think, some personnel changes. Wilkin Formby and Geno Vandermark, I think, are solid players, but Jaden Roberts and Michael Carroll are people movers. They play with a different level of physicality and nastiness that I think is infectious for the entire offensive line, and is something that unit really needs to be successful. I think when they came in, especially I can think of the drive before halftime, I thought they did a good job of getting a little more push in that running game, and you saw Alabama running a little bit more off that right side. That was actually the first 10-yard run of the game was behind Jaden Roberts and Michael Carroll. So I think that's one thing. I think, again, how Wisconsin played Alabama was another. It's shocking to me the stark difference in how they played Alabama defensively from last year to this year. Last year, they were very much rush for, kind of keep Milroe in the pocket. They didn't really blitz, but they did that a lot more. They were much more aggressive to me with their play calling on Saturday. And I think as a result of that, Alabama took advantage. And one thing that I love, I think it all starts with Ty Simpson, man. There's not a quarter, and I get it's ULM, I get it's Wisconsin. There's not a quarterback that has played better than Ty Simpson the past 2 weeks. And I'm not being biased, I'm just being objective. I watched a lot of ball over the past 2 weeks, and there's nobody playing better than him right now. And I think it starts with the level of trust that this coaching staff has in him. You can tell just simply from watching the pre-snap operation how in command this guy is, how much they put on his plate. He is setting protections. He's doing check with me's. He's changing the play. He's orchestrating that offense like a high-level conductor. It's really impressive. And on top of that, they trust him with that, but there is so much more multiplicity and variance in this offense from last year to this year. And I'm not trying to go back on last year. I just think it is such a stark difference that if you don't notice it, I think you might have your head in the sand a little bit, to be quite honest with you. I mean, they're going single back. There's pistol. There's trips formations. There's bunch formations. There's a lot more motions in the offense. You've got, yesterday I thought you saw, they were taking away the run game. So what did Alabama do? They implemented and kind of fed into the quick passing game to be an extension of that run game. And they did a lot of stuff in the intermediate levels of the field. And I think they also put some stuff on tape as far as a formation perspective that they're going to be able to come back to in a game against Georgia and some of these other primetime matchups that are coming down the road and do different things off of it. Last week, I mentioned the jumbo formation where they brought Will Sanders in and kind of used him as an extra offensive lineman, put him in motion to kick out an edge on a touchdown run. You had that last week. This week, you have like this weird full house formation where you give the ball to Jeremy Bernard on a sweep play and he goes around the end for a touchdown. That is putting stuff on tape that you are going to be able to do so much off of in the future, and you're really going to be able to keep teams off balance. And I think that is a credit to this coaching staff. I was really impressed with the game plan yesterday. Yes, I would have liked to have seen more runs, but I understand because of the conditions of the game why they did not do that. And I kind of want to kick it back to you, Graham. Graham, kind of with that in mind, what do you think is the next step for this offense? obviously, like I mentioned, they didn't run the ball really because Wisconsin was committed to stopping it. And so they use other weapons and other ways of moving the ball downfield at their disposal. Do you think that bodes well going forward? That they can they have different pitches in their arsenal? Or is that something that you think is going to hinder them down the line?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that let's just start off with the other weapons piece. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know that it's weapons that people don't know about, but this was the first game that we can truly say that Ryan Williams was truly involved in not only the game planning, but the outcome of the game in a positive way. Obviously, him being out last week with a concussion and leaving the Florida State game with that injury as well, it was really great to see him back on the field. And I mean, like I said, I did not watch the game, but we've all seen the highlights of what Ryan Williams can do. And he's one of those unique players in college football that we've talked about for a year and at least a few weeks since we've been able to see him. That whenever he is involved with the game, he's the best player on the field. Like we've said, there's probably two players in college football that can say that are by far the best player on the field. Him and Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Hampton, we saw Ryan Williams have 5 catches, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, one long one for 75 yards. I was very encouraged, at least from the stat line and the highlights I've seen, knowing that we're able to take shots downfield and we're able to actually make explosive plays come about. And not that did not happen against ULM, but we were a lot more methodical in driving the ball, sustaining drives, keep going forward, keep pressing. Whereas we see this against Wisconsin, we did that and did it successfully, but we were also able to open the top up and open up some of these big plays, which when you play Georgia in a few weeks, when you play Tennessee later in the year, LSU, these other teams, you're going to need to have everything at your disposal. You're gonna be able to run. You're gonna need to throw, play action, deep balls, short game. You need to keep them off their toes, or keep them on their toes, excuse me, and keep them. Yeah, you need to keep them on their toes, where they're at least they're not exactly sure where we could go because we can do so much off of what we've shown. Hampton, I totally agree. In the previous 2 games, we've seen a different Alabama team that's shown up, and it's one that has played not only with more success, but a significant amount more of confidence. You see this team actually understanding the players understanding their roles in the team and understanding the scheme and what we're trying to do. And you see that, like we talked about last week, Ty Simpson being very efficient with the ball, spreading it out, taking what the defense gives you. And there are going to be times, which we'll talk about the Georgia Tennessee game later, that these teams are going to give you open opportunities because they're going to have to take a risk, take a chance to try and at least have a big stop on their own end. And there's going to be receivers that are open downfield. But Hampton, I think the biggest thing to me is not only the fact that we've taken shots downfield, that we've seen Ty Simpson spread the ball out, but with Ryan Williams being back, Jeremy Bernard in the mix, Isaiah Horton in the mix, Lazier Brooks in the mix. Hampton, you're not able to focus all of your defensive efforts on one person.
Yeah.
If Ryan Williams isn't having the best game, at least based off these two, we know that Jeremy Bernard can take over. We know Isaiah Horton is a tremendous weapon. I mean, a matchup nightmare. 6'4", a big body receiver that can go up and high point the football, which is very different than Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. But I think the biggest thing out of all that, in that we spread the ball out, is that you look at these guys, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Lazier Brooks, they're playmakers. When they have the ball in their hands, you just kind of expect there to be more than just a catch and a first down, a catch and a get out of bounds, a catch and a get down. You expect to see plays like Ryan Williams did, having 2 defenders on him and them run straight past him as he slams
Put on
on
the
the brakes.
brakes, man.
Hampton, I think that we really saw Ryan Williams come on the scene last year against Georgia. And let me just say that we're not going to talk about that game this week. but we're going to need that same Ryan Williams that shows up in those big moments to show up in Athens in 2 weeks. Hampton, I'm excited that Alabama actually can spread the ball out and can utilize different formations, different players, but it all comes back to Ty Simpson being efficient. You talked a little bit about the offensive line. We've talked a little bit about the receiving threat. Hampton, I know we're going into a bye week. Let's play this game really quick because I think it would kind of help our discussion.
Okay.
What is who's one player that has not met expectations on the offensive side of the ball so far this season?
That's a really good question. Really good question, Graham. And before I get to that, I want to hone in on a point that you made that I think is really good. And you actually, I think we're on the same wavelength because I was going to bring it up. You talked about the efficiency of the offense and the methodical-like nature that we have seen the past 2 weeks, and we even saw it against FSU. You hadn't seen a ton of the downfield vertical shots, but they're coming. I'm telling you right now, they are coming. I don't even think in the past 2 games that Alabama has really put such a heavy emphasis on it. I think they're working a lot of the intermediate, a lot of the chain moving type of passing concepts and plays. And you've hit a couple big ones on there, but there had been a 50-yard bomb of Ryan Williams just streaking down the field, Jeremy Bernard, Horton, whoever you want to say. But I think that is what you're seeing as the biggest difference. Well, there are many differences in the offense that Alabama ran last year to this year, but being able to stay on the field and stay in first or second and third and manageable instead of being third and 11 all the time because your quarterback is playing on schedule and he's playing within the offense and he knows where he wants to go with the ball. I think that is vital. That is why Alabama was so boom or bust the past 2 or 3 years because it was all relying on a big play. If you took away the big play, the quarterback wasn't going to methodically move the ball down the field, hit his check down, be quick and decisive with what he's seeing. And Ty Simpson has been all that and more. And I know we've touched on him some, but Graham, that brother was making some NFL throws yesterday. I think of one where he got hit, like there was pressure around the edge from Proctor. There's going to be some foreshadowing with that one, with his name dropping. Pressure coming around the middle. There was some pressure from the interior coming up. He stands in there and delivers a strike to Ryan Williams. Then you have the throw to Jeremy Bernard on the end cut. Threw it with great anticipation, perfect product placement, goes in for the touchdown. And then you have a throw on an out to Ryan Williams. NFL throw. Another NFL throw to Kevin Riley on a wheel route where you fit in between 3 defenders. And again, what incredible hands by the young running back. And then you finish it off with a beautiful touchdown to Horton. And I just think he's growing up before our eyes. And everything that you and I said after the FSU game that he needed to work on, he has. He's playing more on time. His pocket awareness yesterday, feeling and sensing pressure, moving up in the pocket, navigating it very well, even using his legs to escape, I think it's just been flat out phenomenal. Like, truly beyond my wildest expectations of what I thought he could do. And I thought he'd be a good player. And again, I'm trying to temper the expectations because of who the opponent is. But what he did from a pure quarterbacking perspective has been unbelievable the past 2 weeks. He should have had a 5th touchdown, but Ryan Williams dropped it, and Lotzier Brooks dropped another pass from him that kind of kept Alabama off the field. Other than that, and other than a missed throw on the first drive of the game, thought he played perfect football. And I will say, Ryan Williams, when an adjustment that they made, he did not play near the amount of snaps that he played in the slot against FSU. And I think for good reason. I don't think he's comfortable with it. I think he's got a mental thing in his head that he's going to get depleted because the one that he dropped, he was inside on the slot, runs a beautiful route and open, and Ty puts it right on his face mask and he drops it. And I think it's just all mental. He has 11 drops from through 3 games this year and then all of last season. It's way too dadgum many. But like you said, he has the explosive playmaking ability that few have. in college football. Now, to get to your question about who has been most disappointing, to me, it's been Caden Proctor. He wasn't awful yesterday. He was better, heck of a lot better than he was against FSU. But he's supposed to be. He was billed as a top 5 pick coming into the year. And Graham, just to be quite honest, he hasn't lived up to that billing, in my opinion. He's not
Sure.
nearly dominant enough. He's getting beat too much with speed around the edge. Sometimes he's getting bull rushed and giving up way too much ground for my liking. Again, I think he's played better, but it's not what I expected coming into the year. Who would that player be for you? And then do you have anything else to say on the offense based on, some of the comments I just shared before we transition really quickly to the defense?
Yeah, I think my biggest disappointment that I've had so far has to be Ty Simpson. I'm just kidding. I just want to see your face on that one. I just want to see your face on that one. Man, Hampton, I'm not going to be too specific, but I know we've had Kevin Riley step up in the running back room, but man, we've really lacked explosiveness out of that whole room in Jam Miller's absence. Which I'm not saying that it's completely their fault, because we can definitely address some of that to the offensive line. But very little big plays, very little breakaway runs that we've seen, at least against in competitive football moments these first 3 weeks. So I'm not going to throw anybody specifically under the bus, but man, we've got to be more efficient and more explosive.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and more explosive out of the running back room. Hampton, I just want to see who you were going to throw under the bus. I'm too good of a person to do that. I'm too big of a bammer to throw any one individual under the bus after a win.
What I am, Graham? I'm an EOC. I'm an equal opportunity critic. I will criticize anybody. I don't care.
Yeah. I like I said, I think the running back room's one's just a little bit lacking. Besides that, I think that you've seen progress be made in all of the rooms: quarterback, receiver, offensive line, these first 3 weeks. And like I said, I feel like we're kind of seeing this Alabama team more confident, but I think it starts with Ty being more comfortable. I think that you see that a guy that has not played much collegiate football over the past several years, which so you can not say you can blame nervousness or inexperience on what happened in Tallahassee, but you kind of see that the more reps he gets, the better he seems to feel. The better he seems to feel, the better decisions he makes, and obviously Alabama benefits from that completely. Hampton, are you done with offense, and can we turn to the defensive side of the ball really fast?
Let's do it, buddy.
Yeah. Before we get into defense, I want to talk about the kick return for a touchdown that Wisconsin had. Outside of that, defense gave up 7 points to again, we're not saying Wisconsin's a mighty team, but a Big Ten team that's capable of at least scoring points, and coaching Luke Fickell that's taken teams that are probably not as talented to high places, and we're really kind of starting to see what the Wisconsin identity is with Luke Fickell as coach. But Hampton, I'm going to set up the defensive question like this. Just kind of give
the ball
stats
in the
first.
for me, baby.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Alabama held them to 117 yards through the air, about 90, a little over 90 yards on the ground. You could tell that's what Wisconsin was trying to do the entire game, was to put the ball on the ground and to try and open up plays for the passing game. But Hampton, I think that we've seen the secondary kind of not necessarily grow up, but we've seen the secondary kind of find their form and find their match in the right scheme. Bray Hubbard, 2 interceptions on the day. Hampton, on the defensive side of the ball, okay, is it better that Alabama held Wisconsin to less than 100 yards on the ground or less than 120 yards in the air?
Say that question again, Graham. You cut out a little bit there.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll start Bray Hubbard again. Yeah.
Okay.
So Bray Hubbard had 2 interceptions. Shout out to myself. I want to pat myself on the back on that one. The player to look out for on the defense side of the ball, if you're an avid listener of the show, talked about him earlier on in the season. Hampton, Wisconsin had 117 yards in the air, 92 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Looking at this game and looking forward, what's more impressive to you? that Alabama held them to less than 100 yards rushing or less than 120 yards in the air?
I think it was the rushing component because I don't think just innately what Wisconsin wants to do on offense is not spread you out 5 wide and throw the ball down the field. They want to be really physical at the point of attack, and they want to run the football. And I thought really most of their runs came late in the game. And they didn't have like any 30 or 40-yard runs, but they had a
The
couple over 10, and that came when
the
a lot of the backups came in.
Yeah, hey, the longest rush of the day,
Uh-huh.
11 yards by quarterback.
Exactly.
Daniel
Mhm.
Neal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was what was most impressive to me because I will give Danny O'Neal credit. He threw a beautiful ball on the touchdown that they had. Xavier Brown was in good coverage. He put it in there. It was a dime. It was perfectly placed. And you just kind of tip your cap and move on. But I want to highlight a few players on defense, and then I'll kick it back to you to see if you have any more thoughts, and then we can kind of move on because I really don't have a lot
Yeah.
of thoughts on the defense. I thought Bray played great. He has really responded well after that week one disappointing performance. And what I
Yep.
love about Bray, he gets interviewed about it last week, took full accountability, said, that wasn't me. My coaches saw it. I saw it. I got to be better. And guess what? Be better he has. He has been a totally different player the past 2 weeks. But really, I thought this past weekend, you saw the Bray from last year. He had 2 picks, like you mentioned. But I think the difference was him attacking downhill from the safety position in run support. And, I mean, he laid the boom on a few people. I was really impressed with the decisiveness and the intensity that he played with. A couple other players I want to highlight. London Simmons is going to be a problem in the future. He's a true freshman, not a highly rated guy, but I'm telling you, there's something to this coaching staff and their evaluations. Look at Lottie Brooks, look at Caleb Edwards, look at London Simmons, and I can go on. And then that doesn't even include the guys that they brought in from Washington, who are key contributors and some of the best players on this team, which I went into last week. I think London Simmons is growing up week by week. I think when Tim Keenan coming back against Georgia, being able to have that guy with the amount of reps that he has under his belt now, coming in and giving Tim a spell instead of having to rely on him to start, I think is invaluable. And I think he moves really well. I think he's got violent hands. I think he's athletic. I was really impressed with him. I thought Yanze Pierre, you follow represent, baby. He had a good game. But my big note from the defense, I thought the linebackers played well. Secondary, for the most part, played well. But schematically, I don't even know if this is a scheme thing or a play calling thing. Probably more of a play calling thing. Why are we dropping Quay Russaw in coverage so much? I get, I'm not the guy of, in the past when Alabama dropped Dallas Turner, they dropped Will Anderson 2 or 3 snaps a game, and people were like, why are you dropping them? I get doing it some to kind of change it up and change the look on the quarterback and what he's seeing, and maybe getting a free interception a la 2016 Ryan Anderson versus Washington. But to me, Quay is not getting enough snaps at just purely rushing the passer. And I think I can make the argument he's the best pure pass rusher on the team. His get off and his athleticism are just downright freaky. I mean, he had one sack where the right tackle didn't even get a hand on him. And I think that is something that needs to be incorporated more going forward. But overall, good job defense. You're getting reinforcements with one of your best players coming back against Georgia. And I think that's going to pay dividends. But you got a major test ahead of you. But you responded the way that you needed to after a after a disappointing performance against FSU and Tallahassee.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see some new names come on the scene. Yanze Pierre, you follow a guy, so you gotta love him. Truly an edge rusher. That's where his area of expertise is, and a true pass rusher in the truest form. I mean, his body type, his ability, his agility. That's what he's made for. So it's nice to see that he's getting some work off the edge, that we have some guys like Lennon Simmons plugging holes in the middle, and with Hampton, like you said, with Tim Keenan coming back in 2 weeks against Georgia. We're optimistic that Alabama's defense will come to play in Athens. So speaking of Athens, Hampton, let's move on to Georgia and Tennessee. We know that Neyland Stadium is a very difficult place to play. But man, this Georgia team has changed their identity. Final score 44-41. Hampton, on the offensive side of the ball for Georgia, I think that it's very evident that they have at least changed their form since Spike Bobo's the new offensive coordinator. We see more quarterback runs. Gunnar Stockton being more physical on the ground and trying to make plays. But Hampton, the guy can throw it too. He is a true dual threat, which we've seen these past few weeks. But coming off their loss to Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl last year, Hampton, Gunnar Stockton and Ty Simpson both being efficient throwing the ball around. Hampton, what do you think that after watching this game, what do you think is going to be Georgia's biggest advantage going into 2 weeks against Alabama?
It's a good question, Graham. I really, before I get into that, I just want to say that we had an incredible day of college football, and there were so many good games, and we're going to get to a couple others. Georgia Tennessee was as good as it gets, folks. Back and forth, teams getting punched in the mouth and punching back. Had drama, had stakes, had a raucous atmosphere. Just credit all the way around to both teams. And I think I saw it on Twitter and I said it in our group chat. I think those are two playoff teams from what I've seen. And again, it's only 3 weeks of football. It's hard to know a lot. But I was really impressed with both of them, and specifically with Georgia. Their offense, Graham, I don't know if you realize this, they ran 96 plays against Tennessee, which is incredible. But I think it also shows some of the limitations to that Tennessee offense, because when Tennessee's offense is clicking and it's rolling and they're going hurry up and everything, it can be the greatest show on turf.
Like the first quarter went.
Huh?
I was about to say like the first quarter went.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like they started the game, boom, touchdown, boom, touchdown, boom, touchdown. But then there's a lull. There was, from the second quarter really into the late third quarter, Tennessee didn't do much on offense. And so when you do that, you're leaving your defense, you're not giving your defense any time to recover, and you're letting Georgia be on the field and run the clock and run the clock and run the clock and have that time of possession advantage. And I think ultimately that's kind of what came back to bite them. I thought Georgia did a great job of mixing up the run and the pass. Gunnar Stockton, I will say this about him. I don't think he's the most talented guy, but that dude competes his tail off. And I truly admire that about him and other guys that play like that. There's nothing that he will not do for that football team, and there's nothing that football team won't do for him. He inspires that type of grit and that type of determination. I mean, the throw he made to London Humphreys on 4th down was gorgeous. The catch was even more impressive to me. They did a lot of good things schematically. I was listening to a guy, Brooks Austin, on Twitter. He's known as the film guy. There were 11 plays in that game, apparently, 11 runs in that game that Georgia's never put on tape, and they saved him for that game, including the run and the formation, like the jumbo formation that they ran to get the ball down to like the 2 or 3 yard line in overtime. I thought it was an excellent game plan by Mike Bobo. I thought it showed that Georgia does have more weapons on offense, especially with Zachariah Branch. But overall for this game, I was surprised by a couple things. One, Tennessee really never took away the screen game for Georgia. I mean, Georgia ran a ton of perimeter screens. Heck, they scored on one. On third down, they sent 7 guys, and they're playing off coverage. They're playing back, and all it took, they had numbers on the outside. All it took was a block or two and a bad angle, and Zachariah Branch was in for the touchdown. They ran that over and over and over again, and Tennessee never seemed to really make an adjustment off of that. So there's that. 2, I was really shocked at how well Tennessee's offense played in this game. I thought Joey Aguilar, especially early, was really, really good. I thought Josh Heupel was messing with Georgia's eye discipline, especially at linebacker, a ton. And Georgia's secondary can be had. If this game showed anything, it showed that their secondary can be had. A lot of not playing the ball well in the air, a lot of panicking when the ball was in the air. But ultimately, I think my biggest takeaway from this game, Georgia showed their competitive character and their championship DNA by winning because Tennessee was the better team for the majority of that game. And when they forced that fumble against Gunnar Stockton and they got the ball in plus territory, I thought it was kind of cowardly by Josh Heupel to not go for the kill there. He ran it 3 straight times. I'm telling you, first down, I'd have taken a shot and put a dagger in them. And again, Tennessee does not pay me millions of dollars to make that call. I'm just telling you, like, myself and our good buddy Kyle Edwards, we were texting like, what are they doing? What are they doing, man? When you haven't beat a team in 8 years, you have to go for their head like Thanos and Avengers, man. You aim for the head, you cut the head off the snake, and you vanquish the foe, and they did not do that. So I think going forward for Georgia, the biggest competitive advantage that they have now is I think Gunnar Stockton is going to have increased confidence going into the Alabama game with the home crowd behind him and putting the performance together that he did on the road in one of the toughest environments to play in college football. But Graham, I want to ask you the same, but I also want to ask you, do you disagree with me about Heupel there in that situation? Did you agree with him just going for the field goal, or do you think he should have been more aggressive?
Yeah, let's start with the question, then I'll move on to my thoughts, at least when it comes to my question that I posed. I think we look at the outcome of this game. Georgia and Tennessee very similarly matched, if I can even spit it out right. And Hampton, I totally agree with you. Tennessee looked like the better team at least for the first half, and you could arguably say the first 3 quarters of the game. But I think the difference in this one has to do with game management. I think you see a guy in Kirby Smart that is not just simply a winning football coach, but a championship level football coach. And you see Josh Heupel, which is a very successful coach, but not a championship level coach to this point in his career. And I think that what you see in the way that the game ended in moments like that, Kirby has at least a better sense of the momentum of the game and the way to swap and change or continue doing something that would really take the air out of the other team. Whereas Heupel does not have as much of that experience. They've won big games in Knoxville, no doubt. But there are moments where Heupel seems to not just get timid, but seems to be okay with, okay, we're going to take advantage of an opportunity like a fumble, but we're just going to play the safe option. We don't want to. We don't want to. We don't want to negate what we did by doing something else that could turn the game in that sense. So I totally agree. I think that especially with a team like Georgia, you're the top dog until you're not the top dog anymore. And for 8 years in a row, they've lost to Georgia. So for Tennessee, they do need to make some explosive plays to have some of those big momentum swings, which make the difference in the game. Not only taking advantage of moments where Gunnar Stockton fumbles and Georgia's pushed back in their own territory, but Tennessee's got to take advantage of that, not only for 3, but for 7 points, to make sure that they know, like, hey, whenever we have turnovers, it's ours. It's ours to take advantage of. Now, Hampton, kind of moving from that, in a sense, you see the difference in the game management. And I was honestly disagreeing with the way that Kirby ended the fourth quarter, simply by using all of his timeouts early when Tennessee was at the 40, 35, 30-yard lines, and was calling timeouts to obviously save some clock. But as I was thinking about it, the kick is slowly moving up. The more timeouts you call, the more opportunities they have to move the ball closer and closer and closer. And from my perspective, that was not the best use of those timeouts and the best use of resources. I understand trying to save clock, but if Tennessee's moving the ball, you're only making the kick easier for Tennessee. And obviously, it ended up paying off by him missing the kick. And obviously, overtime was what overtime was. But I think that, I think the difference in this game, and I think that the biggest advantage that Georgia has going forward over Alabama at the moment, based off what we've seen Alabama do and what we've seen Georgia do, and especially this game against Tennessee. Georgia has several dudes that can run the football. They run the ball physical, they run the ball hard, and they get downhill fast. I mean, you've got Nate Frazier, 73 yards. Chauncey Bowens, 32 yards. Dwight Phillips, 29 yards. And then Enterprise faithful Josh McCray with 2 big touchdowns.
Come on, baby.
To seal the deal. Hampton, I think that's the difference. I think you look at it, Tennessee had to rebuild this defense over last year, had a lot of NFL talent that made it to the NFL this year. But Georgia had nearly 200 yards on the ground against Tennessee, which when it comes to games like this, when it comes to close games, fourth quarter games, when you can run the ball, you're wearing down your opponent, just chiseling away. I think you see the opposite of that. What Tennessee had success doing was big plays over the top, having big throws down the field, whereas Georgia was playing the slow game, slow and steady. They had their big plays, don't get me wrong. Yeah, but by the end of the game, you could see that Tennessee was gassed. You saw Georgia still had a little bit of energy, enough energy, especially as you got to overtime right then and there. So I would say that's probably the difference that at least gives at least the advantage that Georgia has over Alabama at this current moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Graham. I think that's great analysis. And, we talked about that great game. Let's each, before we get out of here, let's give 2 storylines that really caught our attention from yesterday. Graham, I'll start with you, man. Give me 2 things that happened in what, again, a wild day of college football. Why it's the greatest sport on earth. What caught your eye, man?
Yeah, I think the biggest storyline, at least in my opinion, has to be the fact. Well, I'll start with this one first, because I'll start with this. Is that Billy Napier is not the first coach that's been fired this year.
Yeah.
I think that based off of what the schedule going into the year, and obviously losing the USF last week, and now losing Florida, I think that people would argue that Billy Napier's definitely on his way out in Gainesville, but man, you can't start worse than these 2 coaches did. Deshaun Foster at UCLA and Brent Pry at Virginia Tech. I mean, not just losing games, but getting embarrassed in games. UCLA gets absolutely blown out by Utah. Then this past week, they get honestly handed to them by New Mexico. I mean, I was in New Mexico this summer on vacation. We drove by the New Mexico Stadium. Let me just say that UCLA losing to New Mexico is a fireable offense, no doubt. That has to be the last straw. And then Brent Pry, Virginia Tech, the man to replace Justin Fuente in Virginia Tech to at least try and rebuild what was at Virginia Tech. Man, just
a proud
truly
program, dude.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best traditions in college football. I mean, not only losing to a Sun Belt opponent in Old Dominion, But being down at one point 28-0, Hampton, I don't know why you don't just go over the PA system during the game and say, Brent Pry, you're fired. I mean, to be down 28 points to a subpar opponent, there's no discredit towards Old Dominion, but we can't state that
There's
Old
a little
Dominion,
bit of discredit to Old Dominion. It's okay, Graham. It's okay.
but Virginia Tech should not be near the level of Old Dominion, and to be down 28-0 at any point, embarrassing. Hampton, I don't want to steal your thunder because I'm sure that you'll include this in your takeaway, in your headline. Arch Manning at Texas.
Woohoo!
I mean, talking about eyes being like just raising some eyebrows and being put on alert. Playing a UTEP team, which is again not at any level near, and Texas ended up taking care of business. But Arch Manning, not efficient, not effective, made some decent throws, but had a stretch of 10 incompletions in a row. Only passed for 115 yards. You could argue, and I've seen online, and we don't want to spread misinformation, but something's up with Arch. I mean, he's either hurt or he's been overhyped, and I guess it could be a little bit of both. But to go 11 for 25 against a UTEP team is concerning, and I think that raises some alarm bells in Austin going forward, no doubt. You know, we don't mind Matthew Caldwell, backup quarterback at Texas, making his appearance, but Arch Manning ended up having to play most of this game because really just wanted to get him going, especially against a UTEP team. And as Texas enters their they've got one more weekend before they go on the road to Florida to start SEC play. Arch Manning has to get going for Texas to stand a chance going forward.
Whew. I'm with you. I won't touch on Brett Pry and Deshaun Foster. Is that right, Graham?
Deshaun Foster.
Yeah. Other than, bless him, Nico transferred over there and got him fired because Nico, I butchered that. I'm gonna cut that. Nico transferred over there and has been absolutely terrible for them.
Yeah.
It kind of just shows that last year he kind of held Tennessee back in a lot of ways, and I think you and I were both fairly critical of Nico last year. But man, I'm not going to get into the injury stuff with Arch, but I think I can kind of relate him to another storyline that I want to talk about because his mechanics look awful. Like, to be a guy who both of your uncles were NFL quarterbacks. Peyton Manning had one of the prettiest throw motions in the game. Fundamental sound, ball up here. I mean, just perfect. Eli threw it pretty. And to see him, like his footwork, his base is just not sound at times. Like his feet are all over the place. He's doing this submarine angle like he's a pitcher in baseball when he's trying to throw the ball. It's not only that, it's not only the inaccuracy, but I don't think he's seeing the field well. And you and I both said to our credit, that, people calling for him last year, he wasn't ready. I still don't think he's ready, but I knew he wasn't going to be a generational prospect, at least out the gate. I thought we need to pump the brakes on that. I'm shocked at how bad it has been. And I feel sorry for the kid because he didn't create those expectations. The media, the fans, everybody else on the outside did. And he has done anything but live up to them. And I really feel sorry for the kid, but something's not right with him. And that goes into, there's 3 storylines I want to talk about really quickly. We'll start with Florida and LSU because you want to talk about another quarterback who isn't right now. DJ Lagway, man.
Yeah.
5 picks, and all 5, with each one, it got progressively more ugly than the preceding one. The first one, You try a little hole shot, it gets picked, whatever. Then you have one where the safety kind of comes and drives on the ball, okay? Then you have one where the linebacker, I mean, you're staring right at him and he's just watching your eyes. He goes in front, picks it off, pick six. Then for the fourth, you throw it into triple coverage and you overthrow your receiver, gets picked off again. And then the fifth one, the creme de la creme, is you're rolling left and you throw it. I don't know if he was throwing it out of bounds or I don't know what he was doing. It was awful. And I truly feel bad for the kid because I think what you're seeing more than anything, I think it's twofold. You're seeing a kid that didn't practice all spring and all fall and all summer because he doesn't look like he's had the reps and he doesn't know what he's seeing. And you got to give credit to the LSU defense. I get that. And they did a good job of making it difficult on him. But I mean, some of the stuff, like some of the throws and mistakes that he was making were just elementary. But to kind of have it go back on Arch, when you play quarterback, and other than in the front yard, I never did. But when I play quarterback in the front yard, your feet you need to have a strong base to be able to drive the ball. You try to keep both feet on the ground so that you can kind of use that earth force, that ground force to generate power, right? Okay? That's what almost any quarterback needs to do. When he's throwing it, dude, he's picking up his right leg and not driving the ball. He's like kind of jumping, like he's jumping. And to me, what that says is that he had a calf strain. It tells me he doesn't trust that calf to really drive the ball. I mean, I don't know. He's a mess right now, dude. He was a mess against South Florida, but then this performance against LSU was tenfold worse. And I feel bad for that Florida team because LSU didn't do anything offensively either. That Florida defense played their tails off, and they were putting bad position after bad position all night long, as the great Lionel Richie once said. So, Billy, college football. Billy kept his job last year because of DJ Lagway. He's going to lose it this year because of DJ Lagway. I mean, I'm being honest. Like, if Graham Mertz was playing for Florida last night, they probably win that game. That was how bad DJ Lagway was. Can't believe I'm saying that, but good gracious, man. Terrible. You have any thoughts on that game before I go into the other two really quickly? Did you watch any of that one?
Yeah, I watched part of it. Yeah, I mean, I think that this will kind of probably stem into our next conversation, hopefully, that we'll have. Anyway, LSU, I think their offense it has not been as overpowering as many expected it to be. With Nussmeier back at quarterback. But I think, I want to shout out my brother Chase. He said this, and I think it's kind of funny, but it might be true. The NIL deals are too complicated now for DJ Lagway to leave Florida, so he'll just get Billy Napier fired instead. Man, you can't tell me that. Yeah, you can't tell me that something's not cooking up there. But yeah, just football. The game of football has to be played with. It starts with a quarterback making the right decisions, and you see DJ Lagway consistently not doing that and just putting the ball up in the air and really risking it for. I mean, that wasn't even the last pick wasn't even like hey, we got to get the ball down there. It was, I mean, it was like 6 yards down the field. I mean, obviously it was across the whole field, but I mean, half LSU's defense was covering that one guy.
There were 5 guys over there. I mean,
yeah. Man, I think, it just goes to show that, if Florida's offense, like you said, if Florida's offense wasn't inept, then they really would have stood a chance to win this game if they wouldn't have. Anyway, I mean, 2010, only losing by 10 points and throwing 5 picks is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. And I think to that point, you're talking about LSU's offensive struggles. I thought Nussmeier played well against Clemson. I thought he did a really good job of being in control of the whole operation, navigating pressure, making throws out of structure, all that. he looked like a mess last night for the most part. Reverted back to some old habits from last year, throwing off the back foot under pressure, which we talked about preseason. I mean, the pick that he had was on par with anything that DJ had.
Yeah.
Where he's rolling to his right and throws it back across his body. And it's like, what on earth are you doing? And I think now, transitioning to another game, Graham, I think we got to look at LSU a little bit differently. Because after that week one performance, I think a lot of people, and I don't know if I was in this camp because Corbin Griffin is my witness at Cafe Roman Enterprise, baby. I told him this, that after I thought about it more, I wasn't ready to crown LSU the number one team because Clemson did this last year. They beat up on everybody they were supposed to beat up on. You know, in the ACC, they put up great numbers. Klubnik looked great. But when they played Georgia to open the year, they got blown out. When they played a pretty good Louisville team, they got beat. Texas beat them soundly. South Carolina beat them. You know, like all these teams where they had to scale up in the level of talent and competition, you could see that they didn't quite measure up. And so when they beat, you know, when LSU beat them, I'm like, I'm still very impressed with LSU, but I kind of need to see a little bit more because Clemson, you know, we need to wait and see on them. Well, then they had the performance against Troy where they looked lethargic and there were a litany of offensive issues. But then they go down to Atlanta, Georgia, and they were not looking for a soul to steal like Charlie Daniels once said, but they were looking to get a win against Georgia Tech. And Brent Key and Haynes King said, heck no, the Yellow Jackets are here to sting you and take you out today. And after 3 weeks, they're 1-2. And that does not mean their season is over by any stretch of the imagination, especially with the schedule that they have. But their offensive line, not impressed with them. Cade Klubnik, very inconsistent. That defense, that supposed vaunted D line, Georgia Tech took it to them, man. They ran the ball all over them. Haynes King did what he does. I mean, all the stuff that they do with the quarterback run game and the different counters and the pulling linemen and kind of all the, I mean, basically they challenge your eye discipline with kind of playing with the defensive keys to an extent. I mean, I think if you're Clemson, this was supposed to be your most talented team in
Returning a lot.
returning a ton of talent, your most talented team in 5 years, and you're 1-2. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying fire Dabo or anything like that. We're not overreacting, but I do expect a call from Tyler and Spartanburg to be on the Clemson radio show this week because if I'm a Clemson fan, I got promised championship contention, and they have fallen way short of that so far, Graham. What did you make of that game? Were you shocked by that outcome? Because I truly was not, because of the way Brent Key has built that program, and they've been right there, but then they finally got over the top.
Yeah, you look at Georgia Tech, Clemson, Brent Key, Dabo Sweeney. Brent Key has, I think they said that he has 12 wins as an underdog since he took over Georgia Tech in, I think, 2023. Hampton, I'm not going to really analyze the game too much, but the question I'm going to pose, and it's rhetorical, but is Brent Key at Georgia Tech, is he building this team the way that Dabo built Clemson? Hey, we're the underdog. We're not appreciated. We're not given the recognition we deserve. And then going out there and putting it to them. I think you see Georgia Tech walk-off field goal to win the game. But, I mean, you look at it, Georgia Tech was really controlled the entire game. Truly controlled the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that's the concerning thing if you're Clemson is that not did you lose on a last second field goal as Georgia Tech walks it off, but you never were really in control of the game at all. I mean, down 13-7 at halftime. You respond coming out in the third quarter, but then Georgia Tech finds a way, puts it to you in the fourth quarter. And it's kind of fun rooting for the underdog. And I think Brent Key's really building something where it's not necessarily they're the most impressive team, but just a team that just find ways to win. They run the ball hard.
Mm-hmm.
Haynes King, lays it out there. Had 25 carries for 100 yards, willing to put his body on the line, and they're reporting that he's even sleeping in the stadium at this point, which I hope that bodes well for Georgia Tech for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Brent Key, you love to see a guy like that, a coach like that, who builds it the right way, who builds the program on, in my opinion, the core principles of football, being nasty up front on both lines of scrimmage, running the ball and being physical and trying to make the opponent quick, or not quick, quit, make the other opponent quit. I think that deserves to be commended. And Georgia Tech is the ACC. I will give it to them. They're looking like a much better conference this year than I think many of us thought going into the year, because you got Georgia Tech, Clemson is still a factor, SMU, Miami, Florida State. You got Louisville is another team that could possibly make some noise. The ACC, a little bit of a bounce back from them this year. And then the final game that I think I want to cover really quickly, Graham. Quick shout out to Vandy, put a whooping on South Carolina.
Yeah.
I know Lenora Sellers got knocked out in like the second quarter, but I don't think it would have stopped Vandy running all over them and being potent offensively. They look like a better version of themselves from last year, because not only I think are they another year in the system, they added some more talent, but now they had the belief and the expectation that when they go out in the field that they are the better team. They're not the underdog anymore. And I mean, you got, again, like Brent Key, all credit goes to Clark Lee and how he's built that program. Truly impressive job by him, by that staff. And, we talked about Alabama playing Georgia, but Alabama Vandy the week after that is not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. So I want to give a shout out to them. But the other game that I want to talk about, the one that capped off the night, Notre Dame and A&M. I can't believe Notre Dame lost this football game. I thought Notre Dame was the better team going in, and I thought A&M really showed a lot of heart. They showed some things offensively that I didn't really know that they were capable of, especially Marcel Reed. What he did, what Mario Craver and KC Concepcion did at the wide receiver position, I think was super impressive. Notre Dame really, defensively, Kyle, our good buddy Kyle sent me a tweet this morning. In 3 years, Al Golden coached defense in Notre Dame, never allowed more than 40 points. In 2 games this year, that streak has been broken because, A&M put up 41. And I think it was really, more than anything, just kind of self-inflicted wounds that really killed Notre Dame in this game. They had complete control until C.J. Carr threw the pick where he kind of panicked and jumped and threw it to Price, and it bounced off his hand. They picked it off. The game was never really the same after that. Then you've got the Buckner debacle. Oh, my gosh. I feel sorry for that kid. To lose on an extra point because you botched a perfect snap, that's just brutal. And then on the final drive, like how many you had them third and 12, third and long, and you had a defensive holding penalty. You had an interception on second and goal that you just completely dropped. There were just so many errors that to me are uncharacteristic of Marcus Freeman coach football team, and they winded up biting you in the rear end. And so for A&M, huge win for Mike Elko in that program. And I don't think Notre Dame, by any stretch of the imagination, is out of the college football playoff picture or championship contention or anything like that. But your margin for error now is razor thin. Even though you've lost 2 games by combined, I think, 4 points or something like that, or 4 or 8 points. I can't remember if they lost by a touchdown. to Miami or if it was a field goal. But that's just brutal. I think CJ Carr is going to be a really good quarterback, but right now the game in a lot of ways is moving too fast for him. And I think they've really got to lean more and more, like they did in this game, on Jeremiah Love and Price, the other running back that they have. So disappointing, deflating loss for Notre Dame, but what a major statement win by the A&M Aggies.
Yeah, it's a big win for A&M on the road. Marcel Reed, not very efficient, but effective enough for A&M to win this one. CJ Carr, I mean, is kind of the opposite, a little more efficient, but not as effective in moving the ball when it matters most. Jeremiah Love, best running back in college football.
Bar none.
Yeah, bar none. A freak, a true talent. But man, you really just kind of look at the small things, which is what Notre Dame did right last year. Playing disciplined football and defense, making big plays in special teams. Taking advantage of what you're given, which is what they've done, which they did last year, and obviously took them to all the way to the national championship game. I think you're kind of seeing a different Notre Dame team, which has been challenged, no doubt, with two premier opponents. But I think to have an error like that, Tyler Buchner messing up the hold at home is not. I mean, it's inexcusable anywhere, but at home it really doesn't make any sense. It's not like there was crowd noise like that, which just kind of shows a lack of focus and lack of attention to detail. Which Notre Dame, like you said, their margins are razor thin, so they have to be locked in on all aspects of the game going forward.
Well, and again, NBC is savage for this. They kept showing Buchner over and over and over again, but it was like, where's Waldo? He kept changing attire. He had a yellow little hanky on, a yellow hat. Then he changed to a red hanky. Then he took the hanky off. I mean, that man was trying to go anywhere from the camera. Yeah. God love him. But I think you make a great point. Notre Dame last year won in the margins.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that. They didn't do that last night. Just simple as that. They should have won that football game. And the fact that they got beat on a play where the guy who caught it, I don't even think it even caught a pass that game or even the whole season. And that's how you lose. That's just brutal. And then the other thing I'll just mention really quickly, credit to Ole Miss for getting a win against a pesky and explosive Arkansas team. Taylon Green is really, really talented. He's gotten, I think, a lot better from last year to this year. Ole Miss was without Austin Simmons, and they still, because Lane Kiffin is a wizard, got it done and turned the backup quarterback into, I mean, he might be, an SEC Player of the Week candidate, because I think he's just that good as an offensive play caller. So credit to them for getting out a win when adversity struck. And with that, Graham, I think we have covered all for week 3 of college football, but do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
Hey, I'm glad that you and I, and as well as some other teams around the country get a little taste of some rest, a little bye week action in between. Exciting for week 5 of college football. We'll still be back next week, but exciting for have a little bit of a break and then come back fully strong with some really premier matchups on the slate again.
Absolutely, brother. And it's going to be, even though Alabama isn't playing, it's going to be another great weekend at college football coming up. And we can't wait to talk about it with you all next week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it more than you know, all the support that we've gotten this year. Has just been overwhelming. And again, like Graham and I have said multiple times, we would do this if it were just us two and 5 other people watching, but to see kind of how the pod has grown this past year, it's been awesome to see, and we truly, truly appreciate it. So again, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, leave us a like, leave us a comment, hit that notification bell so that you know when the Pigskin Cafe drops a new video. Follow us on social media, and we appreciate you guys more than you know. Again, we're praying for all those affected this past week by the countless tragedies that have happened. It's been a tough week, and we're praying for the Kirk family, the people in Colorado, people in North Carolina, and just all around the globe. We lift them up, and we appreciate you guys watching, and we appreciate college football for lifting our spirits up just a little bit yesterday after our rough week. We will be back next week to discuss week 4 of college football, but the Pigskin Cafe is going to be closed for now. But until next time, chew on that.